Keep moving, don't stop!
I was there, crouched low in the damp Maryland grass as the first faint light of dawn pierced the fog. My heart hammering so loud I thought the Rebs could hear it across the field. Bullets were already whistling past like angry hornets, and I gripped my rifle tighter, wondering if this was the day I'd never see home again. One wrong move and it was over, but something in the air felt heavier than just another skirmish. No one expected what was coming. It was September 17th, 1862, near the little town of Sharpsburg, right by Antietam Creek. We were part of Hooker's First Corps, pushing into the North Woods after marching hard through the night. Lee's Confederates were dug in somewhere ahead, split up but still deadly dangerous. McClellan had us moving fast after finding those lost orders of Lee's, and the stakes couldn't be higher. If we smashed through their left flank, we could end this invasion before it tore deeper into the north. But as the mist lifted, the fields looked too quiet, too perfect, like the calm before the devil himself woke up. I could smell the earth, wet and rich from recent rain, mixed with the sharp tang of gunpowder already drifting on the breeze. Tall corn stalks swayed gently in Miller's cornfield ahead, hiding who knew what. My boots sank into the soft ground as we advanced, the air thick with tension. Every step felt like walking into a trap. Then suddenly the silence shattered. Confederate cannons roared from the woods, shells exploding all around us, sending dirt and corn flying in deadly sprays. Men screamed as they fell, and I dropped low, my ears ringing, terrified we'd never make it across that open ground. We pushed forward anyway, bayonets fixed, the stalks whipping at our faces. But then the hidden rebel infantry opened up. It was chaos. Smoke filled the air so thick I could barely see the man next to me. Bullets tore through the corn like a scythe, cutting down whole rows of our boys. I fired blindly into the haze, my shoulder aching from the recoil, but the enemy fire kept coming relentless. Exhausted already from the march, I felt helpless as friends collapsed all around, blood soaking into the soil. What happened next, none of us could have guessed. We finally broke through to the edge of the field, thinking we had them on the run toward the Dunker Church. Cheers went up for a second, but then Hood's fresh Confederate division slammed into us like a thunderbolt. They charged out of the west woods screaming, their lines pouring volleys that mowed us down in waves. I saw men I'd marched with for months cut in half by canister shot. The cornfield turned into a slaughter pen, bodies piling up so fast you couldn't step without tripping over them. Overwhelmed, I reloaded with shaking hands, the smoke burning my eyes and throat. But the fighting just kept escalating. No end in sight. As the sun climbed higher, we fell back through the shattered stalks, only to reform and charge again. The ground was littered with the dead and dying, their moans mixing with the constant roar of muskets and artillery. I was terrified, my uniform soaked with sweat and someone else's blood. Suddenly, a new wave hit us from the side. Stonewall Jackson's men were counterattacking fiercely, turning the woods into a nightmare of close-quarters combat. Bayonets clashed, men grappled in the dirt, and I felt the raw fear of knowing one slip meant a blade in my gut. No one expected the rebels to hit back so hard after we thought we'd broken them. The air grew hotter, filled with the stench of burnt powder, and worse. I pressed on toward the church, my legs burning with exhaustion, but another obstacle appeared. Union reinforcements from Sumner's Corps were moving up, yet confusion reigned as orders got mixed in the fog of war. We pushed into the west woods, hoping to roll up their flank, but then disaster struck. Confederate forces hidden in the trees unleashed a surprise volley from three sides, catching Sedgwick's division in a deadly crossfire. Men crumpled everywhere, the woods echoing with screams. I dove behind a tree, heart pounding, watching in horror as our advance collapsed in chaos. What fresh hell waited just ahead? By mid-morning, the fighting shifted south toward a sunken road between two farms. We were ordered to support the attack there, marching under constant shelling that made the earth tremble. The road looked like a natural trench for the Rebs, and they held it stubbornly. As we neared, the intensity ramped up again. French's division hit them first, but the Confederates poured fire down that lane like it was a shooting gallery. I saw wave after wave of our boys charge only to be cut apart. The noise was deafening, smoke choking everything, and I felt more helpless than ever, pinned under the weight of it all. But then something changed. We joined the assault, scrambling over fences and into the fray. The sunken road, soon to be called Bloody Lane, became a furnace of death. Confederates fired from cover while we exposed ourselves in the open. Bodies stacked up in the road, 2 and 3 deep, turning the dirt red with blood. I fired and reloaded mechanically, terrified with every step, the fear gripping my chest like iron. Exhaustion weighed me down, but we kept pushing, determined to break them. No one expected the line to hold as long as it did under such pressure. A mid-battle twist hit like lightning. Just as we thought we had the road, more rebel reinforcements arrived, but our numbers started to tell. Yet McClellan held back fresh troops in the rear, leaving us to bleed. I couldn't believe it, watching comrades fall while reserves sat idle. The chaos peaked as we finally overran parts of the lane, stepping over the mangled remains of friends and foes alike. Silence fell for a brief moment amid the wreckage, broken only by the cries of the wounded. But the day was far from over. Conditions worsened in the afternoon as we turned toward the bridge over Antietam Creek. Burnside's men had been struggling to cross for hours, and now we moved to support. The bridge became a death trap under heavy fire from the heights. Cannonballs whistled overhead, exploding in the water and on the banks. I felt overwhelmed, the terror of crossing that narrow span with bullets zipping past. Men dropped into the creek, turning the water pink. We finally forced our way across after brutal attempts, but then came the ultimate blow. AP Hill's division, fresh from Harper's Ferry, slammed into our flank like a sledgehammer. The climax erupted in full fury. Hill's Confederates charged across the fields, their yell piercing the smoke-filled air. Our lines buckled under the surprise assault, and chaos swallowed everything. I fought hand-to-hand in the smoke, exhausted beyond words, terrified this was the end. Cannons thundered, rifles cracked non-stop, and the whole battlefield seemed to collapse in on itself. Men ran, screamed, died in heaps. I witnessed friends cut down in seconds, the fear so intense it blurred everything into a nightmare of blood and fire. This was the maximum stakes moment, where one push could decide it all. As the sun began to set, the guns finally fell quieter. I stumbled through the aftermath, the fields silent except for the groans of thousands of wounded. The once-green corn was flattened and stained crimson. Bodies lay everywhere, some still clutching weapons, others staring blankly at the sky. I felt a deep exhaustion mixed with numb relief at still being alive, but the human cost crushed my soul. Friends I'd laughed with were gone forever, and the air hung heavy with the smell of death. Reflection hit hard in that quiet horror. This single day at Antietam became the bloodiest in American history, with over 23,000 casualties. It stopped Lee's invasion cold and gave Lincoln the victory he needed to issue the Emancipation Proclamation, changing the war from just saving the Union to ending slavery too. That moment mattered because it shifted everything, proving the Confederacy could be beaten on their terms and giving hope to a divided nation. Without it, the course of freedom might have looked very different. But as I stood there among the fallen, staring south where more battles waited, I couldn't shake the feeling the real fight was just beginning. What horrors lay ahead in the next campaign? Would we finally crush them at Fredericksburg or somewhere worse? The war wasn't over, and neither was the terror. I knew I'd have to face it all again soon,